Dav Kuf Aleph Amud Aleph, the Mishnah, right on top of the Amud. Zok the Mishnah, Hadel Shebemuksa, door to a backyard, Hadakim Shebepirtza, and a bundle of thorns that is put into a gap in a wall, Machsalas and reeds, and reed mats. So all of these things, Ein Noelim Bahem, you cannot close any of the openings, any of the entrance with them, Elam Kain Gvoyim Min Haaretz, unless they're suspended from the ground. The issue over here is that it's nira keboina. It has an appearance of building. So these types of things where typically a door is suspended either by hinges or pivots, so you're not building anything, you're not adding anything to it. It's part of the structure, and you're opening and closing the door, so you're not building anything. These were kind of makeshift doors, so you had an opening, whether it's in a backyard or an opening in a wall. So they would take either a door and tie it to the opening, or they would take thorns, a bundle of thorns or mats, and put it there. So if you would tie it onto the opening and fasten it to the opening, that has the appearance of being boined. In some circumstances, it could even smashma, it could even be a deraisa. The only way that it's mutter, the Mishnah says, is unless it's tied. They're tied already to the part of the structure, to the lintel or part of the structure, and they're also dangling in midair. They're not resting on the ground. Therefore, it's clear that you're not building something. This was something that was already attached to the building, to the structure in some form, and you're just putting it in and blocking up and stopping up the hole. But if it would not be dangling, then it would look like you're picking it up from the ground and you're taking something which is on the ground and putting it in and fastening it into the building. And Rashi's mashma that if it would not be tied and it would just be sitting on the ground, that would even be a deraisa. So therefore, to avoid even the appearance of being boina, of building on Shabbos, therefore it's only mutter if it's attached to the structure and dangling in the air. Rimino, we'll ask you to steer from a brisa, deles, handigreres, if you have a door that drags on the ground, marcelis handigreres, or marcelis v'kan handiger, or a handle of a plow that's dragging on the floor, bismachik shur utloyim, if it's tied and it's suspended, no alam b'shabbos, then you're allowed to tie on Shabbos vein tzarich leimer b'yantav. So you see from the brisa that as long as it's kshurim and suspended, even if it's nigreres, even if it's on the ground, then it's mutter. Our Mishnah is matir only if it's tied and it's dangling. But over here, it's delas hanigreres. Even if it's on the ground, it's mashma, that even if it's on the ground, as long as it's tied, it's mutter. So Amar Abaya answers, B'shiesh lem psir. Why in the Bryce's case it's mutter because it's talking where there is a pivot. In those days, the way they had the doors we have hinges, so the door there's hinges on the side and it opens and closes. In those days it had a tzir, it had a pivot, so it was fastened on top and the bottom, and it turned on the tzir and you open and close this way. Here we're talking where the door was not attached to the pivot, to the tzir, but there is a tzir in the doorway. So it's clear that there is a door over here. It's clear that therefore this is not building over, there's a doorway over here, and therefore it does not look like you're being boina. And Rav Amar B'shaylam tzir, he goes even further, he says that even if there's no tzir right now, but it's just recognizable that there was a tzir over there, there's the markings and the hole for the tzir, then that's also enough, because then it's clear that this is a door and it's not being used to close up the wall, to build the wall. It's clear that this was being used as a door. So therefore, the Bryce is talking in these cases where it's clear that this is a door and you're not building, and that's why it doesn't have to be dangling. And the Mishnah is talking without a tzir, and therefore it has to also be dangling. Meisval, I ask you a kasha, delis hanigreris, if you have a door that drags machselis hanigreris, v'kan nigra, bisman shikshurim utluyim, when it's tied and it's dangling, ukevayim min haaretz, afilu malay nima, as long as it's above the ground, even a hair's breadth, no elabem. You can close the door, v'im lav, ain't no elabem. If not, you can't. So the way the Miri explains this is that, what is the kash over here? I mean, this is the way the Mishnah says it. It's the way the Mishnah says it over here, and that you need to be tied and dangling. And so why is that a kasha? The way the Miri learns it, it's not a kasha. We're not asking a kasha on the Abai and Rav over here. We're asking a kasha on the brisa itself that seems to be a steer in the brisa itself. Because as it says, delas hanigreris, matzelas hanigreris. Now, like the previous brisa, that we learned the previous brisa, when it says nigreris, it's understood to mean that it's dragging on the ground. It's nigreris, it's on the ground. And then it continues and says, ugvoim min haaretz afilu malay nima, as long as it's suspended from the ground. So the way Miri learns it, it's a steer in the brisa. What are we talking about over here? It says delas nigreris, maxels nigreris, which means it's on the ground, and then it says you can close it. It can be used if it's dangling. What are we talking? It seems to be a steer inherently in the brisa. There seems to be an inherent steer. Abai mitzaras l'tamei v'rov mitzaras l'tamei. Abai mitzaras l'tamei. What it means is, oy sheyesh lehem tzir, means either or. It can be nigreris, it's dragging on the ground, if there is a tzir. Oy shegavoyim min haaretz, or it's suspended, it's dangling, if there's no tzir. And Rabbi Matas l'tamei, he says, b'shohay lehem tzir, oy shegavoyim min haaretz. In a similar way, it's Matas l'tamei, it's talking either, it can be nigreris, dragging on the ground, if it was recognizable that there was a tzir, or if it's not recognizable that there was a tzir, it has to be dangling, it has to be going min haaretz. So number one, we learned in the brisa, if you have branches from thorn bushes and bundles of wood, that you set it aside to close up a opening, a gap in a wall, and the chalzer bisman shikshurim utloyim, when they're tied and they are suspended, noelam Shabbos vein sarach leimar b'yontav, and it's mutter certainly on yontav, even on Shabbos it's mutter and certainly on yontav. Tani Rabbi Chia, delis almana nigreres. If you have a delis almana, literally means a door which is an almana, which is a widow door. Means it's not complete. It's not built in the way that doors are that are completed. We'll see what that means in a minute. Ein no elam behem, you cannot close up with them. If it's on the ground, if it drags on the ground, you cannot close the opening with these types of a door. So hechi dame delta almana. How do we define that? Ikadam, some say the chad shifa, it's made out of a single board. Normally doors are not one board, is made out of two or more that are nailed rather, and are joined together. So this is only one board. And some say that it has other boards, say two, and they're nailed together, but it doesn't have a cross beam. The proper way to make the door is with planks and with a cross beam, and this doesn't. So therefore it does not have the appearance of a door. So we say, therefore, del almana, you cannot. If it's on the ground, you cannot close the door with it, because it has the appearance not of a door, it has the appearance of building. And Taisa says that we're talking about over here that it's kishiyesh lem tzir, that there's a tzir, because if there be no tzir, it's dragging on it's on the ground. Then if there be no tzir, either it's tzir or the markings of its tzir, then it would be also, even if it wouldn't be a delit almana. But here we're saying that we're talking about even if there is a tzir, but since it's a delit almana, it has the appearance of closing the wall rather than closing a door. So if it's nigreres, if it's on the ground, it's awesome. So we're talking about making an oil. And so here we're also having discussed certain halachas of a temporary oil, an oil arai. So therefore, even if you're not making this for the purpose of shelter underneath, but if you have a structure that has a top, has, so to speak, a type of a roof and walls, even if you're not making it to use the interior area, but it has the appearance of making an oil. So you have to make a shinoi of it, a shinoi in it rather, so that it doesn't have the appearance of an oil. So if you're making a bonfire, making logs, so you have logs piled up and on the top as well. So milmala lamata shori, if you construct it from the top down, so before putting the sides, you have the top log, and then you put the ones underneath it. Then it's mutar lamala, but to do it in the normal way from bottom to top, then it's aser. And similarly with an egg, so if you have logs and you put an egg on top, again you have sides and you have a top, or a grill and you have the egg on top, the same type of thing. You have to do it from top down, not from bottom to top. And a pot, and you put a pot on 2 barrels, then also top to bottom. And if you have a collapsible bed, that you have to put the mattress and then the sides, not the sides and then the mattress. And to a barrel. And if you have 2 barrels and you want to put a barrel on top, if you want to stack the barrels, you have to put the top one and then the bottom ones. So now we have something just discussing. We were talking about a bundle of thorns. We have a drosha on thorns. He called him, that Tzduki called him a chitka, a thorny one. You're called like thorns, because the Navi says that the best of you are like thorns. So the Navi Micha says it calls Yisrael thorns, so he called him a thorny one. Amalei Rishu said to him, "Shout, you fool! Shil save the crowd." Look at the end of the pasuk. It says that the tzaddikim are better than a sheltered area. They protect. The tzaddikim protect that they're better than a mesucha. What does it mean that it says the best of them are like thorns? So it says, Kashim shechadakim alalu megin malapirtza, just like the thorns, the bundle of thorns, they protect. If there's an opening in the wall, you put them to close up the opening, so they protect on the pirtza. Kach tevim shabanu, the good among us meginam aleinu. They protect us like thorns that protect. If there's a pirtz on the kaisel, you take a bundle of thorns to close it up to protect. It's so they can protect us. Davar taivam kechelek, the best are like thorns. Shemahadkim, we interchange the ches and the hay. Shemahadkim is the rishoyim legehenim. They crush the rishoyim in gehenim. Shenemar kumi v'doishi ba'asiyin ki karnech asim barzel u'pasvisayach asim nechusha v'hadakais amim rabim. I'll make you see your horn, I'll make your horn, I'll make iron, and your hoofs out of brass. You'll crush the people, so you crush the Rishoyim in Gehenna. Continue on, Zok the Mishnah weiter. Lo yamed al the Mishnah Yochin, a person should not stand in the Rishus Yochin, and then pick up a key that's in the Rishus Rabbin, v'yiftzach b'Rishus Rabbin, unlock a door that's in Rishus Rabbin. If the person is in a different rishus, we're afraid, as we'll see, this is the sheet of Rav Meir, as opposed to what we learned earlier on Daf Tzaddik Ches, that a person, according to the Rabbanon, a person could stand in one rishus and be metaltal in a different rishus, and we're not worried that he'll bring the item to him. Over here, Rav Meir is saying that we are concerned, and therefore a person should not stand in Rishus Yachid, pick up a key that's in Rishus Rabbim, and unlock a door in the Rishus Rabbim, because we're afraid he'll bring the key to him in the Rishus Yachid, and therefore he'll be Oiver Anoitzo or Achnosa. And similarly, Rishus Rabbim, he should not stand in Rishus Rabbim, pick up the key that's in Rishus Yachid, and v'yiftach Rishus Yachid, and unlock a door that's in Rishus Yachid, because for the same reason he might bring it to him in the Rishus Rabbim. Elim came also mechitza gevaya sar tefachim, unless he made a mechitza 10 tefachim surrounding the area which he stands, so therefore even if he does bring the key, he's in Rishus Yachid. Divrei Ramer. This is the sheet of Ramer that we are concerned that a person might bring it to the different rishos. Amrloi the Chomset Ramer, Maisa b'shuk shel Patom, Shaim Yerushalayim. There was a Maisa with the shuk of the butcher shuk in Yerushalayim, Shayu Noilim, that they would lock their stores in the streets. Umanichan es Mafteach v'chalvain shel Gabi Pesach, and they would put the key and they would put it on a windowsill above the door. And even though that had a din of a Rishus HaYachid, the window still had a din of Rishus HaYachid, and they were standing in the street, which is L'chaira a Rishus HaRabim. We'll see in the Gemara, but L'chaira it's a Rishus HaRabim. So you see that standing in one Rishus and unlocking or locking in a different Rishus is mutter, and we're not afraid that he'll bring the key to them. Rabbi Yossi Aimer, he doesn't argue on the din, he's just arguing on the particulars of the Maisa. Rabbi Yossi Aimer, Shuk Shel Tzamarim Hayu. It was a wool merchant's market, not a butcher's market, but the idea is the same. So this is the machlokes. Are we concerned? Are we geyser or not? Correct the Gemara. Bonon Amar Rabbi Meir Rishus HaRabim Hadre'u Inhu Carmelis. What riot the Rabbanon are they bringing? L'chair, Rabbi Meir was talking about in Rishus HaRabim and Rishus HaYachid, where the consequences, if he forgets and he brings the key, is a deraisa. That's where he's going. So what are you bringing a riot from Yerushalayim? That Yerushalayim did not have, even the streets did not have it in Rishus HaRabim, it had it in of a Carmelis. Tama Rabba Bar Chana Amar Rav Yechna and Yerushalayim Ilmali it also sent in Al Balayla. Yerushalayim, if not for the fact that the doors were closed at night, the doors of the walls around it were closed at night, it would have been a Rishus HaRabim. But the fact that it's closed at night, it's not a Rishus HaRabim. It only has a din of a Carmelis. So why are you asking, bringing a raya? Why are the Rabbanon bringing a raya from a case of a Carmelis? Amar Papa, Kan Kaidim Shenifishva Protzois, there's a chilek. When do we say that it had a din of a Carmelis? That's before the Nachrim came and they made holes in the wall, breaches in the wall, and breaches in the wall that Rabbeinu Chanal says were more than 10 amas. So therefore it's considered parts. And therefore it has a din of Rishus HaRabim. So, but it has a din of a Carmelis prior to the Pirsus. It has a din of a Carmelis. And if it's some process, but over here in the Mishnah, when the Chachamim bring a rye from Yerushalayim, is after the Nachrim made the process, the breaches in the wall. After the breaches in the wall, it has a din of Rishus HaRabim. Before it had the breaches in the wall, in a Chanami, it was a Carmelis. But after the Nachrim came and they smashed the walls, it had a din of Rishus HaRabim. And from that, in that period of time, that's what the Rabbanon are bringing a riot. That after that period of time, that's when it was still mutter, even though it had a din of a Rishus HaRabim and was still mutter from the Maisa of the Shuk Shel Tzamarim or the Shuk Shel Patomim. Rava says no. We're not talking about a different period of time. Rava says we're discussing, there's two separate dinim in the Mishnah. In a Chanami in the Reisha, we're discussing, Rameir is talking about Rishus HaRabim. But what's also, either it's Chasur Mechzer or it's implied in Rameir's din, that he would say the same thing by a Carmelis. He would say by a Carmelis the same halacha that we are also geyser. And Seifa also the Sharagina. The Seifa is talking about the Sharavagina of a garden, and the garden which was more than Beis Hasayim is loy hukaf ladira, has a din, therefore of a Carmelis. And Rameir also is geyser by the Carmelis. V'hachi kamer, and this is what Rameir is saying. He's saying v'chein lo yomid Rishus HaYachid v'yiftal b'Carmelis. And he says the same zera applies not only to Rishus HaRabim, even to a Rishus HaYachid and a Carmelis. Or Rishus HaRabim and a Carmelis. Unless if he's standing in the Carmelis and the key is on the Rishus HaYachid, he makes a wall around where he's standing, 10 Tvachim, to give it a din of Rishus HaYachid, Divrei Rameir. And on that, Omer Loi the Chacham said, Ma'aseh b'shuk shel Patom Mishayu Yerushalayim Shayu Noilim Umanich Mesam Avteich B'chalon Shel Gabei Pesach. There was a Maisa over there that they used to stand in the Carmelis and lock with the key that was 10 high, was in a Rishus HaYachid, and they weren't geyser. And V'yesi Aimer Shuk Shel Tzamarim Haya. He says Shuk Tzamarim. So you see that you're not geyser in a Carmelis either.